No one noticed the girl crying at first. They noticed the slap. And then they noticed themselves doing nothing. The bell above the diner door chimed softly as Emma Collins rolled herself inside. The wheels of her chair squeaked slightly, a sound she hated because it always made people look. She was 22, thin as a whisper, her legs motionless beneath a faded blanket her mother had sewn years ago. Emma had learned to live with the stares, the awkward smiles, the people who spoke louder to her as if her spine injury had damaged her hearing too. What she hadn't learned was how to survive cruelty when it came without warning. The diner was called Rosie's Place, the kind of small-town restaurant where coffee was always hot and the booths held decades of secrets. Emma came every Thursday at noon. Same booth by the window. Same order: grilled cheese, tomato soup, extra napkins. It was her one ritual of independence. Her mother usually waited in the car, giving Emma the dignity of being alone. That day, 3 young men sat at the counter, loud, laughing too hard, the kind of laughter that felt sharp even from across the room. They noticed Emma the moment she passed behind them. One of them snorted. "Hey, check out wheels over there," he said, not even trying to whisper. Emma pretended not to hear. She always did. She focused on the window, on the cracked sidewalk outside, on the idea that if she stayed small enough, invisible enough, the world might leave her alone. But cruelty doesn't need permission. When the waitress set Emma's tray down, one of the men stood up and blocked her path. "Can you even eat by yourself?" he asked, grinning. The diner went quiet in that uncomfortable way, the kind where everyone hears but no one speaks. Emma's hands trembled as she reached for her spoon. "Please," she said softly, "just leave me alone." That should have been the end. It was. The slap echoed like a gunshot. It wasn't hard, not enough to knock her over, but it was loud, deliberate, humiliating. Emma's head snapped to the side, her cheek burning, her eyes instantly filling with tears she had sworn she wouldn't shed in public again. Someone gasped. Someone else looked away. The men laughed. The manager froze behind the counter, fear locking his knees. The waitress stood still, coffee pot shaking in her hand. A father covered his child's eyes. No one moved. Emma didn't scream. That hurt more than the slap. She just sat there, shaking, tears rolling silently down her face, feeling smaller than she ever had in her life. After a moment that felt like an eternity, the men left, still laughing, still untouched by consequence. The door chimed again, cheerful and cruel. Emma's mother rushed in from outside too late. Always too late. An hour passed. The diner returned to its routine, but something was broken. Everyone felt it. Guilt hung heavier than the smell of bacon grease. Emma sat in silence, her soup cold, her heart colder. She wondered if this was all life would ever be, enduring, surviving, being strong because she had no choice. Then the ground began to hum. At first it sounded like distant thunder, then the windows started to rattle. And then the diner door opened again. They didn't come in angry. They came in quiet, and that's what made it terrifying. Leather jackets filled the doorway. One by one, bikers stepped inside, boots heavy, faces unreadable. The room fell silent again, but this time it wasn't fear of violence. It was anticipation. These weren't reckless men. They were deliberate, focused. The leader, a broad man with gray in his beard and sorrow in his eyes, looked around slowly. He didn't need to ask. Small towns talk. Pain travels fast when it's unjust. His eyes landed on Emma. She stiffened, instinctively bracing herself for more judgment, more stares. But what she saw confused her. Respect. Recognition. Something close to regret. The man removed his helmet and set it gently on the counter. "We heard something happened here today," he said calmly. "To a young woman." No one spoke. He walked toward Emma and knelt so they were eye level. "Name Jack," he said softly. "And I'm sorry we weren't here sooner." Emma blinked. No one had apologized to her except her mother. Jack stood and turned to the room. "Hour ago," he said, voice steady, "someone slapped a disabled girl in this diner, and nobody stopped it." The words hit harder than fists. He didn't threat. He didn't shout. He simply spoke the truth. Then the bikers did something unexpected. They sat. They filled every booth, every stool. They ordered food. They tipped generously. They stayed. Their presence was heavy, not with menace, but with accountability. It was a message without violence, we see. We remember. One biker gently fixed Emma's blanket. Another paid for her meal. Jack placed a card on the table. "If you ever feel unsafe again," he said, "you call us." Later that week, the men who had laughed were identified. Charges were filed, community service, public apologies. But the real justice had already happened. Emma returned to Rosie's place the next Thursday. The bell chimed, people looked up. And this time they smiled, not with pity but with respect. Emma realized something powerful that day. Strength wasn't just surviving alone. It was knowing that even when the world fails you, compassion can still roar in on motorcycles, late, but unstoppable. Sometimes evil is loud. Sometimes courage is quiet, but justice always remembers who stood still and who stood up. If this story moved you, stay kind, stay brave, and never underestimate the impact of choosing to act. Because someone is always watching, and someone is always worth protecting.